Even if you're thinking of selling your business 20 years from now, there's a large percentage of businesses that don't sell because the business owner gets right to the point where they're ready to sell and they say, oh my gosh, I can't sell my business because what am I going to do? Having a set already written out, hey, this is the contingency plan. I guess something goes wrong. This is the person you need to call. This is what's in place. I find, at least in my experience over 35 years of doing this, the most important thing to a business owner, they're going to assume that the person who's working with them has the expertise to do their job. Start now.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Built to Exit with me, your humble host, Jason Sisneros. And today, like always, you're starting to see a general theme of people that I've brought on here for interviews. They're people that I respect. They're people that have a long track record. They're not somebody who got great at marketing and they're the newest, fanciest guru that's hit the marketplace. And today is no different. Matter of fact, his nickname is the Todd Father. So I've been using this term OG for a very long time. I like to talk to OGs. And the Todd Father is one of those, and you're going to enjoy the conversation. Lots of experience. As those of you that are new to the show, what we talk about is that the greatest conclusion that you can come to in this intellectual sport that we play called business is that everybody exits. And so if everybody exits, that means you're part of the everybody, and you should think about consistently, how are you building your business to exit? And that's what this show is about, is to add value to you. Once you come to that intellectually superior conclusion that it is that you're going to exit and you're going to start to build your business for exit, these are conversations that matter. You want to listen to people who've been doing this for a very, very long time, and they're excellent and with great track record. So that is who we're going to be talking to today. So let me bring the Todd Father, Todd Pollock. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm glad we have this opportunity.
Yep. Well, you came to me through one of my most trusted sources, right? We met through my wife, who's done business with you for years and years and years.
She's
And
wonderful.
she's a
good pick. Good pick, Jason. So,
well, it's a testament. Anybody wants to know if I'm a closer or not, all they have to do is look at my wife.
that's okay. I'll keep it there. Yeah, Emily's a great person. So I'm glad that we're connected through her.
Well, I've been excited about this interview for a while. I know you the depth of experience that you have. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes. So my name's Todd Pollock, and my nickname is the Todd Father, but not because I'm from New Jersey. Has nothing to do with the Sopranos. Think in terms of somebody who gets into people's lives and just tells them the truth. I think I've actually argued more people out of doing business than argued in. And I'm one of those strange people. I think, Jason, that when I've been evaluated, I'm called a entrepreneur creative because I've reinvented myself many times and started many different practice areas. I just like to start things, get them going, build them to perfection or not so, and then give them over to other people. So I'm one of those strange people who's also unbelievably also a CPA, and I've been told I even have a personality. So that's quite unique.
That is unique, and you do have a personality. It's quite a good one, actually. It's interesting because that's who watches my show. We are a very unique breed, right? And an entrepreneur, thinking about like the history of business, where it used to be, well, you're going to own the business forever and then you're going to pass it on to your kids. That started to change in the 70s, and just has, because again, it's a great place to invest, because it's, generally speaking, somebody who's deeply connected to their community and longstanding reputation, because they've had to behave ethically to be able to feed their family over time. And the entrepreneurial creativity, my wife and I are in tons of businesses. We're always doing something new. I think that's what keeps us alive. And we'll get into it here in a little bit, about where you're at in your career and what you're doing. But I want to lean a little bit on your CPA work, your financial work. because we talk in Built to Exit. There's four really big segments that an owner has to work on and get right if they're going to have and control the three most important things in an exit, which is time, price, timing, and terms. And one of them is relationship to the customer. That's your lifetime value, stickiness, all that. Next one is a management team, making sure that you're not necessary so that your company is transferable. A pro forma, there's two places that I want you to talk on, because one of them is clean financials that don't lie and tell the truth, so that somebody that's doing analysis and the due diligence on your business can make a good, wise decision, so that you don't try to hide things, because immediately when they find something like that, you lose trust, the deal falls apart. So that's one area, the clean financials. What does that mean to you? And then a pro forma adjusted EBITDA, which is a phrase that most people don't know in business because it sounds fancy. All that is you're doing the work for yourself as if you're going to own the business for the next 5 years, so that you can already hand that over to somebody who may buy it. So in those two areas, what have you seen? What is some good advice?
So here's one of the problems that I found, Jason, is that many times the financial statements are really geared and crafted for tax purposes. So the owner is going to the CPA, the accountant, is kind of doctoring the financial statements so they produces the least amount of taxes, which may actually create a problem when someone's looking to buy the business, right? That's clean financial statements means really looking at the numbers not just through the eyes of a tax preparer, but really as a successful business owner looking to sell the business in the future. Um, Clean also to me means that you are really looking at anything that's being added or subtracted from the business that I would consider to be your own personal expenses. Business owners, a lot of business owners have what's called, I'll call it lifestyle businesses, where that's the way that they get paid, that's the way that they live. And they may be putting things through the books and records that really relate to their lifestyle. And they really need to identify that and adjust for that way in advance of getting your business for sale. So, um, I don't know if I answered that question, but that's kind of the quick answer of clean financial statements and a pro forma EBITDA, which makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. What are some of the mistakes, like, cause again, it's saxllp.com if anybody wants
But
to find and look up Todd, and what are some of the things that you have run into? Like, what are some of the first things that you see when somebody hires you, brings you in, whether it's a transaction or they're just trying to get their books cleaned up? What are some of the top things that you could tell people? Look at this. Obviously, you're free to reach out to him, and obviously his firm is world class. But what are the things that you would say? Hey, go take a look at this, because we see this almost every time we bring on a new client.
right. So one of the things is, so let's talk about the ad backs. We see pretty much every time that the business owner is going to have perhaps employees that are really not employees, family members. We see personal expenses that they're treating as business expenses, cars. It could be properties that really are personal properties that they're putting through. We see sometimes that they're not really being completely accurate in their what I'll call T&E. So the T&E is really their family expenses and not really the business expenses. We see at times items that are not truly assets in the books that are really personal assets that shouldn't be on the books. So that's just, I mean, there's a whole checklist, Jason, that you can go through that is, again, if a business owner is using the business as a lifestyle business, that this is how they're going to get paid. This is how they're going to enjoy life. There might be tuition payments for their kids. There might even be taking their dog to the vet. I don't know. I mean, I've seen some ridiculous things in my life, but anything that here's a good point. If you as a business owner would be upset if you bought a business and you found expenses put on the books or not put on the books, um, I would say start looking at your business from that perspective. And sometimes because you're looking at tax efficiency, you may not actually be recording all your revenue properly, right? Because if you remember, taxes is based upon your profitability. So how are you actually recording your revenue? What method are you using? Because you want to true that up to be some form of reality.
Yeah.
Licenses. I mean, how are you holding licenses? So many different, depending on the type of business that you need to kind of look at.
Love that. Well, you, again, the work you do, most CPAs, they stay in compliance, stay in tax work, but you have made many transitions. This is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show. You've transitioned and are in constant evolution, like a lot of us business owners. You called it entrepreneurial creativity when we were talking backstage, and then you've gone deep into exit planning. You've gone deep into the cannabis advisory area and people coaching on charisma and presence. Like, you have this breadth and depth of experience. What's the pivotal moments for you that pull you in these new directions?
So again, what's interesting is that um, because of my personality, I think as a entrepreneur creative, um, I have, I would probably say to you, depending on where you are in your journey, is probably where I might become handy or useful in a conversation. So yes, I'm a certified exit planning advisor. So I do have the SEPA designation. So business owners who are looking to sell their businesses anywhere from 5 to 10 years, even a good conversation to have with me is to even just understand some of the basics of what people are looking for in businesses. But even more importantly, Jason, one of the things that I get into that makes me a little bit different is on helping the business owner figure out what they want to do next. There's a large percentage of businesses, and you know this because you're in the field, that don't sell because the business owner gets right to the point where they're ready to sell and they say, oh my gosh, I can't sell my business because what am I going to do? I'm going
Right.
to go home to my significant other. They're going to kill me or I'm going to kill them. I don't have any plan for that next. My expertise is in helping people find their next. And so when we're talking about exit planning, I have a pretty strong depth of understanding on the whole process, like what you're doing.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I have a good understanding, having done this and gone through it myself, that psychological shift that you need to make as an owner to, find what is next. I think I told you my log line. My log line is I say now I'm a sage pathfinder who helps people find the road ahead because the greatest adventures happen when the map runs out. So business owners, they're all tied up in their business, but what happens when the map runs out? What do you do next? So that's where I can, I think, play an important role.
What's interesting, we developed, out of necessity of what you just said, we developed a sometimes six, but it's about a 4-week program, and we call it Horizon, right? And it's that exact process because it becomes pivotal in selling the company, because as you said, we would get to the finish line and they're like, oh my gosh, like it was, most of the time it was unconscious
Yeah.
sabotage to the deal, because you're needed, and then all of a sudden I'm not going to be needed, and I'm going to be there a year later. I think you told me the story. A year later, or 6 months later, you're sitting on a couch staring at your wife at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or your husband, and what are you saying to each other? What's that
Yeah.
thought process?
Yeah. And you do know that the highest divorce rate is among people who retire. So, I
It's
mean, a lot of people don't understand how significant the shift is once you decide to leave what you've been doing for many years. And when we're talking about business owners, if you haven't really taken the time to process that, I'm going to tell you right now, you in after you leave whatever you're doing in 18 months, you're going to be bored. I know in the first 18 months is a very long vacation. Yeah, you'll get to play golf more, you'll probably travel, you'll probably spend more time with your grandkids. But after that 18 months, if you haven't figured out what you want to do next, you are going to become a very depressed person. And a lot of people, I know it's sad to say, they actually check out.
Yeah.
They physically die because they haven't really planned for that. They
Yeah.
plan for everything, even plan to sell their business, but not for what their life is afterwards.
Yeah. Retirement. It's funny. It literally, the math is in. It's 18 months later and you're dead.
Yeah.
So I don't ever want to retire. You know,
Yeah, you don't need to.
yeah.
I think you're pretty young, so I don't think you need to retire for a while. But I think part of it is the idea of figuring out what you want to do next. Could be that you might do a different business.
Yeah.
You might recreate yourself. You might become a podcaster like you, a world famous podcaster.
Yeah.
Might come another Jason. You might actually decide to live in the Bahamas or in Aruba and take up surfing and have us teach people how to surf. Who knows? But if you don't start exploring it early, when you get to that point, it's going to be very difficult to kind of decide.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's three major sectors that people get connected to when we run them through this Horizon Pro. I'm just going to start sending them to you from
Yeah,
now
go
on
ahead.
because it's a
Oh,
it's a good that's a good fit for our people. But there's three areas that we find that they connect to the most, and one of them you mentioned is might want to go start another business.
yeah,
Right? That is a typical thing with entrepreneurs. We're not satisfied with just doing one thing.
true.
The second one is traveling,
Hmm.
getting out there and traveling, experience in the world that, that you haven't had a chance to do because you've been anchored to your business. And then the third one, which I find to be the most powerful one, and it's not a total complete absorption of the extra time that you get, but it is psychologically and spiritually. And you can tell me if you think that this is what you've seen too, is people that get connected to some kind of a charitable
Hmm.
giving back stage of their life. That really
Sure.
has been one of the biggest factors on the what's next. You have you found that to be true as well?
Yeah, what I have found though, this is what is kind of interesting, is that usually the people who take that route, Jason, have been involved in charitable functions before they actually sold their
Good point.
businesses.
Good
I
point.
think that it's not for everybody, but it's so if you already have had a heart or a passion for a particular cause, whatever it may be, then you now have the time to devote. So maybe it's mentorship. Maybe you really want to mentor young business owners, or maybe it's taking care of animals, whatever it is. But normally, it's not someone wakes up one day and says, "Oh, I want to be charitable." They already had that in their heart. That's why the whole act of exploring before you make that move, the what's next, is so critical.
Well said. Well said. I want to ask you because when we very first operate with a customer, a client that comes in, we do what's called a scan and aim. It's a diagnosis of sort, right? To say where are you, where do you want to go? That gives us the delta of what are the things that we need to build to be able to get you there. So it's sort of a diagnosis, and you have a story of misdiagnosis that is compelling to me, and I think that where do you think every how do I say this? Misdiagnosis, I think, kills businesses, right? Misdiagnosis kills businesses. And so talk to us a little bit about diagnosis, misdiagnosis, how you switch those things, and if you have anything, personally tied to that.
So, clarify misdiagnosis. Give me a little bit more um,
So
meat on that.
I'll give you a good example
Yeah, give
of
me an
misdi.
example, please.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. But they have their business, and they're like they look at it and they say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to my kids,
Yeah. Okay.
or I'm gonna get ready to sell it when I feel like it's time to sell it,
Yeah. Right.
which to me
Got
is a complete misdiagnosis of
Yeah.
what you should be doing.
Right. So what you're talking about is two. I mean, those are two good examples I can talk about. So one is that you assume that your business, number one, can be transferred to your kids, or you even want to transfer it to your kids. Because I mean, if your business is really not a great business, why would you give it to your kids? It's like, giving them something that, and I guess my point is that you need to prepare your business to be transferred, one, to your kids, so it is a great opportunity for them to run it. Second, that if you are financially set, Jason, and you really don't need to get a whole lot of money from the business, you've set the money aside and it's not just a lifestyle business, then maybe giving it to your kids is not a problem. But can you imagine being stressed out that your kids are not going to pay that note that, they took back from selling it?
Yeah.
Imagine the stress of that. So one is, making sure your business is transferable to your kids. Number two, that your kids even want it. And number three, that if you sell it to them or transfer it to them, they're going to be able to keep it going. Do they have the same skill set, the same vision, the same whatever that is? So that's misdiagnosis. And the third is the folks who never want to give up their business because they are waiting for the perfect time. And you and I know timing is really a problem in any aspect of marketing, of a
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
And holding on to it too long may cripple the value of the business because we go through cycles, we go through opportunities.
Yeah.
So, and I've had, I have stories about all those. I mean, um, uh, people who are really successful in business, and I know your listeners are thinking that what am I going to say next? People who are really successful in business aren't always successful in figuring out how to transfer it or to value it or to get it ready for sale. They know how to do business, but they may not know how to do other things. And that's why they really need to have someone come along who is going to help them through that process, who's not in it just for the sale.
Yeah.
See, I know there are people out there, they come into your business, they want to sell your business, but they want to sell to your business because they want the VIG, the percentage you're going to get once they sell it. You
Yes.
need people who really care about the owner, about the owner's family, who's not incentivized only by that dollar amount of selling it, of getting the sale. I don't know. What do you think about that, Jason?
Brother, I could not agree more. I say it on a lot of podcasts that there's this big circle around a producer, right? A founder of a business is a unique individual who adds massive amounts of value. We're talking about $17 trillion of the US economy is done by small and mid-sized businesses. 60% of the hiring, 90% of the non-governmental jobs. That is everything. It's diversified income, it's diversified finance, it's what actually keeps us free. I love all of the First Amendment, Second Amendment. I love all of that. But if you take that away, guess what? Right? We're indentured servants to large corporations that are in league with a corrupt government. Okay. So when we talk about the circle, it's kind of like I look at it and it's a bunch of sharks that are floating around because this person built something of value, has some enterprise value, and what they see is I want to get your VIG. The VIG is such a perfect analogy because they want their fee and they want it as fast as they possibly can. So they don't care about the biggest piece that you said, price. Timing is like, how am I going to get my money? What time is the time? But the third piece, which is the most important, which is the terms,
Yeah.
right? It's the terms of the deal. I want my people taken care of. The different parts of the deal. And if you're not dealing with somebody who cares, and I call it, forgive my language, Todd, I call it the give a shit quotient.
Yeah.
And you have it, right? We have it. And if somebody doesn't have it, then they're there for the transaction.
Right.
The transaction may or may not happen, but it's going to not be in the benefit of the person who sacrificed and went through divorces and didn't show up to their kids' stuff. And that's where I'm really passionate. That's why I do the show,
Yeah.
is to
It,
protect people like that.
Yeah, you're right, and I mean, just to reflect even more. So I find that, at least in my experience over 35 years of doing this, um, the most important thing to a business owner, they're going to assume that the person who's working with them has the expertise to do their job, right? That's kind of
Mm,
when people say that you're going to get a quality whatever. I mean, that's kind of assumed. It's about the relationship. The people that I've worked with, and even like my situation with you and your beautiful wife, it's about relationships.
yes.
Owners of businesses, they want people who are going to be truthful to them. They're going to tell you the truth, but they're also, they can you can look them in the eyes and they're. I'm not saying her best friends, but they know that we've got their back. There's
Yeah.
something solid behind that.
Yeah. It's very, very important. And again, that is why you're on the show. I don't have people on here that are like, that I don't have a relationship with or that we don't trust. But my wife being in one of the OGs of the cannabis space, and having a stellar reputation, and then her, dragging me kicking and screaming into the industry, you
Yeah,
know?
you understand why?
Yeah,
You-
yeah, and at the end of the day, she trusts you and refers you to literally everybody. That means the world.
Yeah,
So, talk to me a little bit about the unexpected things that people should think about. And again, to be an entrepreneur, as you know, you have to have this outsized enthusiasm and positivity for the future because you're playing a game that 90% of people fail at. So there has to be this outsized thing, which is great in some areas, but it also causes people, what I have found, to not think about what happens if I get a divorce? What
yeah,
happens if I have a disease? What happens
right.
if I become incapacitated? What if I have a bad partnership? What if the economy takes? So talk a little bit about the things that people should be thinking about but don't feel real good to actually address.
Yeah. So let's even go a little bit deeper. So when you're thinking about the unexpected, um, I, I'm kind of shocked that there's so many people that don't have buy-sell agreements with their partners. And so, if something happens to them, that means that the significant other becomes the partner, and that causes all kinds of stress. I find that also there is this. You're absolutely right in what you're saying. I don't know why, but there among business owners, there's this attitude or perspective that they're untouchable, that they could nothing's ever going to happen to them, and they don't really have what I'll call contingency plans for their business set out not just in their mind but in writing. How about this? There are a lot of business owners who don't even talk to their family or their wife or their kids about the business or what's going on. I mean, that's kind of dumb. I mean, if you're operating in a silo and you don't have a wife or kids, okay, that's different. But when things go down, they're going to be pulled right into it, Jason. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that too, because I've seen that as well.
So it was for a while, and still is to a certain degree, one of the bigger chunks of our business.
Yeah,
People we the I again, I we all have a story of this, but a guy passed away at his desk at work,
yeah,
and the family had no idea, right? You just think about all those things that you're carrying around in your head as a business owner, and now somebody who doesn't know anything about it and just thinks that check shows up at the end of the week, or the house payment gets made automatically. Now there's
yeah.
tax issues, there's unwinding, there's payroll that passes because nobody's paying all those things, and having to unwind that so that we can retain what little enterprise value is left to try to get the family taken care of.
And that's a great point. So what I've seen too, I don't know if you've seen this, when the business owner hasn't really prepared for their family and they something happens to them, guess what happens? Either the wife or the son or the daughter, whatever it is, gets pulled into the business. And then, Jason, then the sharks really come. Because when
Yes.
people find out, the vendors find out, or the customers find out that the person who was in charge is no longer in charge, believe me, they take, or one of the key employees.
Yeah.
who has all the information. I hate to say it, but there is a dark side to the human heart, and I wish that everyone had a good heart and would do the right thing. But that's when people get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So having a set already written out, hey, this is the contingency plan. I guess something goes wrong. This is the person you need to call. This is what's in place. That is so important because guess what, business owner? You are not indestructible. You are not Superman. And even Superman's kryptonite would get him, right?
That's right. That's right. And so I even have a hard time hearing you say that sentence because, I think pretty highly of my health and my ability, but right. But I've done the planning. We've gone through that. Let's switch a little bit because in order to, one of the big chunks like that we talk about is making sure that you have a management team, right? Which means that you have to be a leader, and which means that you have to be a trainer. And and there's a difference between business owners that build businesses that attract great teams and the ones that just keep it all on their shoulders. So talk to me about your experience of people, maybe some steps that people could take to attract you have a great team, around you. I have a great team around me. What are some of the things? Talk about the team because that
Sure.
takes a huge chunk of that responsibility. If something happens to you, that it can continue on without you.
So we can talk about both. I'll call the internal team and the external team. And you can actually have your internal team be external as well. But so your internal team is really going to be the folks who can step in your shoes if something were to happen. So we talk a lot about here because I'm in a fairly good sized regional CPA firm that you need to be replicating yourself, right? Every business owner should have a person that they're replicating so that if something were to happen to them, they could take their place. And even more so, making that plan, that transition over a period of time, so that it's not just when there's um, a fire that takes place, i.e., a fire in a metaphorical way, but even if that never happens, who's really going to step in if that happens to you? So you're going to have your team is going to be obviously it's your finance team, it's your operation team, it's going to be your sales team, depending on the business. But when you're talking about the external side, you really need someone who understands your business, um, obviously you're going to have your accountant, you're going to have your attorney, you're going to have people like what you I mean I actually tell people that they really should, since they are ultimately, or most people are ultimately are going to exit it, they should have someone on their team now to be strategizing about how to increase the value of that business so they can get the highest multiple. Where can they actually focus on building up those five intangibles that someone from the outside is going to buy? Like that should be part of your team now, not just when you're saying, "Oh my God, I want to sell my business."
Yeah.
So and you've gotta vet the people who are close to you.
Yeah.
You can't just it can't just be a matter of talk. And how about this, Jason? Have you seen business owners who have outgrown their CPA firm? Have you
Yeah.
seen them outgrow their law firm? Have you seen them outgrow this name, whatever that is? Uh, and sometimes I'll put it the other way. Sometimes the CPA firm, the attorneys, they actually outgrow the clients so that they're not really a good fit. So the question I would ask the owners is, when was the last time you did an audit of your internal team and your external team? And that's something I know you've done. You've worked with
Yeah.
businesses to get that audit. We've done that too. Like, do you really have the right people? And if not, is there a way to bring them up to speed, or do you need to start replacing them now?
Yeah. That's a
And how
great
we
point. It, it brings me to like, you bring up things that I say, which, and this is like in order, and it's interesting because sometimes it comes across, and I want to make sure it doesn't come across as shaming people, because it's a necessary piece. We talk about there's four things because you use the word outgrow, and such a wonderful word for people if they understood. I got to check in on my growth. right? And not just growth of revenue, but growth of experience, growth of expertise. Like you said, the growth of attracting a higher quality client, higher quality employees. And so when we start the business, we start out with a lot of ignorance, a lot of arrogance, a lot of impatience. And
Every
typically we surround ourselves with the wrong team. I don't
correct.
know anybody, Todd, and you can tell me if you've seen this somewhere. I don't know anybody that starts out with the right team.
Sure.
Haven't met that person.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but
Sure.
those four things, but to have a team, to have anybody helping you when you very first get started is pretty impressive. But you need
Yeah.
those four things to get it, to get momentum and get past that breaking point of, I'm a real boy, right? Like I'm a real business.
Mhm.
And so this is kind of your area of expertise, that especially where you're headed in this next phase of your life, is to address people on the psychological, emotional, spiritual side, and point to these things as an area where they've outgrown who
Yeah.
they were as an individual. So speak
Yep.
on that for a second.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different tools when I'm working with um, anyone, but especially business owners. What you're really talking about is going through a process of self awareness. You'd be surprised how unself-aware we are. I mean, and I think someone has said that you can't hear yourself by yourself. So
Yes.
having someone sit with you and say, okay, let's kind of evaluate where you are right now as a person and where there's probably some areas that you need to work on. And we're not talking about this psychologically, but how about this? Where you might have some real big blind spots that no one is telling you about. Jason, tell me if you have heard this. Normally, people who are close to you, unless of course it's your significant other, they don't usually address your blind spots. They don't
Yeah.
want to tell you that you are doing things wrong. And unfortunately, people who with a strong sense of identity, we're talking about business owners now, they often have a very strong opinion, and therefore people are afraid to speak up and saying, you know what, you're wrong. You shouldn't do that. It's a lot of people who are saying yes when they should be saying no because they're afraid. You know, the boss is going to fire me if I don't stand up to him.
Yeah.
Or, so there's also that. Having an opportunity to sit down and evaluating where you're at, self-reflection, that's a significant uh, process that could really help someone to get to the next step or protect them also from making some bad moves.
I love that. Well, you come as highly recommended as I can give any recommendation. You're a trusted friend to our family.
Thank
And
you. Same, likewise,
yeah, and
likewise.
we've seen, we've gone through and been involved in deals, and it's like that's where you get to know somebody. You break bread with them. You do business. You
Yeah.
see high pressure situations. You see who comes through, who keeps their word, and you've certainly been all of that for Emily and myself. So thank you for that. I'm going to ask you one last question on our way out.
Okay. One
This has
last
been
question.
exactly as great of an interview as I hoped for. So thank you.
Oh, good. Good.
Um, so one piece of advice, if somebody was watching this and the only thing that they heard you say was this one piece of advice for every business owner who dreams of being successful, having an exit, making, a lot of money with their business, what's the one piece of advice that you would want them to take away?
The one piece of advice I would give to them is don't start later, start now. Even if you're thinking of selling your business 20 years from now, because if you bring in the right people, folks, they can actually not only prepare you for a sale, they can improve the bottom line of your business, which is going to translate into a higher dollar amount, a higher multiple. Don't wait. It's not something that you want to put off. And many, many business owners will tell me, yeah, I'm thinking one day of selling, and that's it. Don't wait. Start the process today. How
I
was that,
love that.
Jason?
That's a
I mean, that's really but it's the truth, man, because people end up waiting too long. And look, if you start now, there may be ways you might be able to improve your business today, but you're going to benefit from. You're going to be able to take it home in your pay. But if you wait too long, there's going to be things that's going to be very difficult to fix, and think think about, being proactive with your health, right? You don't want to wait until you get sick to start working on your physical health. Same with your business. Get the right people in, get the right team, have the discussion now, bring in your family, bring in the key employees that you want to be involved in your team, and start now. That would be my
Uh,
one thing is
it,
don't wait, start now. That could
it's
be a bumper
genius.
sticker, I think. You might
You,
want to, put your Jason bumper stickers, BTX, don't wait, start now. I think that would be good.
I think it's a great one, and we say it in different ways, but you said it perfectly. It's like a mic drop moment, and um, people say, "Oh well, Jason, I'm not ready to exit." It's That's probably one of the things that breaks my heart because we really do care about the people that we help. I really love, I think you and I talked a little bit about my ambitions is to build
Sure.
a couple of $1 billion protection mode for around small and mid-sized business owners. And that's why I'm doing this. And so it really breaks my heart when somebody comes to the incorrect conclusion that they're going to exit later. You said something very important in your last point, which I wish everybody would understand. When you are built to exit, you're also correspondingly taking the most amount of money in the form of free cash flow out of the business while you still own it.
Right.
Right. And that is, I mean, that is the bumper sticker to
Yeah.
being built to exit. Doesn't mean you exit today. It just means you're in control of when you do. And it's optimized in putting as much money in your pocket with the least amount of your personal time involved. That's a built to exit business. That's a built
Yep.
to exit business. So,
And have the right people be part of that team, not the
amen.
people who just are looking to get the vig when you sell, because they're out there, guys. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not gonna say anything bad about them. That's their role is to find someone to buy your business so they can get whatever percentage they can. And sometimes what they do is they don't take the time to help build to exit. They just want to get it sold. They don't really, they just get the thing sold, get the thing sold. I think, Jason, may be a little bit different in that we want it to be a process that brings the most value to that owner and their family, not just that someone gets a payday.
Yeah. Let me solidify what you just said statistically. 97% of the businesses, or sorry, 93% of the businesses that are put on the market to sell do not sell.
Yep.
Statistically, what Todd just said, that is the truth of the matter. About 90% of the businesses that we help sell, we don't even put on the open market. While we're preparing them for exit, we kind of know we've got relationships with, a couple hundred private equity firms. People are doing roll-ups all that, investment, family offices. We kind of already know. And before we get done with the process, we kind of already know who's going to buy and who the two alternatives will be. Because if you have no alternatives in a sale, they control the entire strategy of it.
That's right.
Right. And so that's really, really valuable information. Brother, thank you so much for spending some time with me
Well,
and
thank
coming
you,
in. And
Vince.
I know we could have 7 or 8 of these conversations, and I hope we do.
Anytime
Um,
you want, my friend.
yeah.
Anytime you want.
And
And
good luck. Good luck on this next. You've been
yeah, my next
successful in every other cycle. I know you're going to be successful in this one as well. And can't
thank
wait to
you.
watch it.
Thank you. And Jason, make sure that you have people check out my LinkedIn because they'll have fun watching the videos. People usually
Absolutely.
they like to pass around the videos because they're pretty funny. So
Absolutely.
I think my
Well,
last I just posted is so I wasn't aware that partners weren't supposed to drive punch buggies. So if you want to watch that one.
well, to find him, let me give you the correct spelling of his name. It'll be posted up on the video as well, but it's Polyniak.
Right. There's only
Polyniak is
one
how you say it.
Polyniak.
Yeah.
Polyniak and Polyniak if you're anyone but my immediate family. And there's no other Todd Pollock or Polyniak on LinkedIn. So and if you find one, let me know because that's an imposter.
Yeah. Well, there's only going to ever be one you, brother. So,
I'm pretty sure. Same with you, Jason.
amen. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Let me switch over here. Thank you guys for being with us. As I told you, Todd Father, OGs, full of wisdom, full of information for you to take those nuggets and to immediately apply them into your business. Where did you get a different perspective? Where did you get a different strategy? How could you reach out to Todd and ask him some questions? With, he's got a ton. He's just a wealth of information, and loves to serve, and that's our family here at Built to Exit. So thank you for being with us. I want to say, as usual, all of the new viewers and all of the OGs that have been supporting this show for a very long time, thank you. I'm watching you share these to people who need to see them, and that means the world to me. That I'll keep doing this show as long as you keep sharing, as long as it keeps adding value. And we really appreciate you here, the entire team at Built to Exit. We talk about y'all every single week at our team meeting, and we're just happy to be a part of this family. So thank you for being here. Keep your eye out. We're going to have other episodes, and we'll see you at the next show. Thank you very much.